Welcome to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. Thank you for your service.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. I am happy to be with you this week of the Marine Corps birthday, Veterans Day, everything we got going on this week. And we're going to have a blast today talking to Jess Quezada. She is a Marine Corps veteran. All right. She was a photojournalist, and now she runs the first travel community with the goal of getting military members and veterans alike out there traveling and just enjoying the world. So she founded LiboRisk, and she's going to tell us all about that. So Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's always an awesome opportunity to kind of bring awareness to what I'm doing and inspiring other troops to get out there to see the world. So thanks for having me.
Very cool. It's good to have you. We usually start off the show just by hearing a little bit about our guests. So please, photojournalism's awesome. First off, I'm kind of jealous of that career field. But I'd love to hear about that, how you ended up in the military, everything. Start us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Dallas, Texas, born and raised, and I went to an art school when I was a kid. And I love photography, painting, sculpture, and I wanted to pursue a degree in photojournalism, but I found out that it's kind of one of those fields that it doesn't really matter about the degree, more so the experience. And so the Marine Corps and the military in general was one big, fat, juicy experience. And I found out that you can do photojournalism in the military. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2013, got the job that I wanted. And I had a kind of unique experience because I got to bounce around to 3 different duty stations within like 2 enlistments. Which is kind of unheard of. You only get 1 during your first enlistment usually. And so I was in Quantico for a bit with the Marine Corps Recruiting Command, going around all over the United States and covering stories for the recruiting processes and the events that they had. Mm-hmm. And then I was in Japan for 2 years, and that was just a plethora of experiences getting out and going, seeing mainland Japan and what the culture was all about. And that's really when like my whole travel and adventure really took off as far as like the other countries that I got to go and see. And then I was in Orange County for about 4 years and wrapping up my final time in the Marine Corps itself. So it was a really good, unique experience. And I think that when I got out, I wanted to continue something that just was adhered to serving the United States military. And it kind of, like I started working on LiboRisk at the time, but it was more so when I got out that I realized I was like, all right, this has to be the centerpiece of my life now because the Marine Corps is no longer my baby, but I wanted to make something else, that was going to be my baby and that was going to continue to serve the masses. So LiboRisk was something that I started working on towards the end of my second enlistment. And I was fortunate enough to grow up with a wonderful grandmother who was going on all of these adventures, and she would bring back tokens to me, and it reminded me of like the potential to experience life. There's so much more out there than just what our neighborhood, or our little small town or even cities about. And I continued to have that aspiration to explore throughout my time in the military. And when I got to Japan, like I said, that was the crucial point of opportunity that I had to go out and buy those plane tickets, go on those trains, get in a car, and just see the world. So.
Yeah, I have a very similar kind of background. I went into the military. My first duty location was at Andrews, which was very pomp and circumstance. It was a lot of standing in lines and going to hangars for ceremonies and stuff like that. And then I got to go to Aviano, Italy. And that was when I realized how much I wanted to get out and just see as much as possible, but not only see things, but experience them in a different way. And I think that's a lot of what you're trying to do is you're not just saying, hey, travel, but you're saying push the limits while you're traveling, try new things, get outside of your comfort zone. And that's going to just fuel that fire and make you want to do more.
Absolutely. And to me, traveling elevates our perspective of humanity. So when you look at the ways that people join the military, we've come from every corner of the country, sometimes different parts of the world. So we're already like on this palette of being receptive. We're open to new stuff, but it's not advocated in the military like it should be. Traveling is medicinal. And we look at some of the problems that we have when it comes to alcoholism or drug abuse, domestic violence, and just depression. there was 580 suicides last year, 2020. That's insane.
Crazy.
You know, and so we look at ways that we can help people, but traveling is not one of those things. And when you go and you travel, you encounter new opportunities, new sports, things like yoga, which is super holistic healing, and being able to just be like, oh, wow, there's so much micro problems in the macro world that you're like, shit, you know, today really ain't that bad.
No.
What's going on in my life isn't that bad. So you're right. Those experiences, experiential moments are the kind of things that really help us grow past that identity. And that's something that like I truly experienced when during my last enlistment and recruiting, like I had an alcohol problem. And unfortunately, like I didn't even know it until I crashed my car into a tree and I got a DUI, and my whole career and my whole identity that was wrapped around this like sergeant title and being a stellar individual in the Marine Corps was completely stripped. And so I really looked at my life at that point and I was like, what am I? Who am I? This whole thing that I had in my mind about like the person that I was in the Marine Corps was just completely ripped under the rug from me. So, you know, I look at those moments, and I had gone to Colombia for a month, the country, not the city, and for a month. And I just like completely revamped my whole life around that experience and that trip, going somewhere that was a little risque, a little risky. I hiked in the jungle for like a couple days. I went out dancing. I met other people, and it really made me understand that my problem that I thought I had in the Marine Corps really wasn't that big of a deal, and that I could get past it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, just going out dancing in a new location and meeting somebody. I remember I was going on a short little deployment. I won't even call it a deployment. It was really just going to another base to help out on working on some vehicles for the Army. And we were going to this town called Getty, and we were at a bar hanging out. The owner of the bar was this old Italian guy with his daughter there, and we were all dancing, having a good time. And I was wearing a Cure Construction shirt, which is my father's company, and he was wearing the shirt of his bar. And I'll never forget it. He took his shirt off and he goes, "I'll trade you." And we traded our shirts. I mean, in the middle of the bar, we're all dancing, having a great time. And those connections that you make, like I said, I will never forget that. It's the silliest thing in the world. But like you said, these things that we do get wrapped up in, they don't mean anything. When you have a cool experience like that, where that guy probably still has my shirt. I know I still have his shirt. You know, it's so memorable, and it's so kind of like iconic in my own world, because it represents those experiences that if you just open yourself up and allow yourself to experience them, you have a blast.
Exactly.
I could imagine Colombia dancing and I mean, just the beautiful people running around, beaches, all that kind of fun stuff, being in the jungle, you know, outside of your element.
For sure. Well, and that's the thing too, like people, I started thinking about all these adventures that I was having, and realizing people were like, how the heck are you taking a month off while you're active duty to go to Colombia? And I'm like, well, you know, like any other good service member does, we plan, we prepare. It's the same thing with SOPs and anything else you do in the military. You create a plan and then you execute. And I got really good at figuring out how to travel abroad while in the military, because there's a plethora of things that you got to do. You have security clearances that you have to be concerned about. You can't just hop on a plane and go anywhere. And so you look at how people are so discouraged from going anywhere because it's a ton of crap that you have to do. So I was really good at it, and I was really good at building itineraries and figuring out not only for myself, like how I want to enjoy this trip, but when I presented that to my command, it was a no-brainer for them to say yes, because I had a thorough battle plan for what I wanted to do and how I wanted to experience this trip. And so they entrusted what I was going to do. Colombia, a lot of times people, you know, just think about cocaine and hookers,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's not all that there is. It is the second most diverse ecosystem in the world. There's tons of jungles that you can go around. You can go to the coast, the city's very historic. There's a lot of museums. It's amazing. And then when I came back and I could talk about it in this highly, you know, way and just say all the good things about it, people are like, wow, you know, this is really awesome that you're doing this. How do I do it? And so I thought of LiboRisk as this opportunity to create, educate, and inspire other service members that would get them out of the barracks and be able to really help them and enable them and stop discouraging them from wanting to go and experience life to the fullest.
Yeah. And I think what's so important about what you're doing is that education aspect of it, because it is so easy, especially nowadays with our phones and video games. I mean, 18, 19-year-olds just melt into a couch in the barracks.
Yeah.
We did it when, you didn't have a smartphone. I mean, I was in 2000 to 2005. So really, I had a Nokia brick. I could have killed somebody with that thing. It was great for protection on flights. But now you have smartphones. You can order every meal that you need. It'll come right to your door. You can disappear if you allow yourself to. And again, going back to the health and the medicinal properties of travel and getting out and being social, isolation is one of the first things that we talk about when we talk about depression, PTSD, and a dangerous path. So if you're just locking yourself in your room and playing video games, you're already starting on kind of a dark path. That's not a good, healthy way to live. So that's why I really like your website, because all that information is right there about what you could be doing and how you have to go about getting your command to sign off and all of that. So tell us a little bit about the website as kind of a start to where we can start getting this information.
Yeah, so it was really fun for me to build this out because it helped me understand all of the different regions in the world and knowing how to break them down effectively for people and what that will mean for them if they want to go travel there. You look at different parts of the world, and like the Southern Hemisphere is completely opposite of the Northern Hemisphere when it comes to weather.
Yep.
People don't even consider that. They're like, oh, I want to go to Thailand in July. I'm like, that's monsoon season, bro. Yeah. Like, it's your summer here, but those little things that people don't consider. And so I broke down all of the region and just explained, climate wise, culture wise, how Central Asia is different from Southeast Asia. And I really got nitpicky about the information because it's the stuff that people don't consider when they go out and they want to plan a trip and vacation. And so our time is so difficult to arrange around in the military anyway, because we have workups, we have deployments, we have operations exercises, duty, everyday things of the lifestyle that we have. And so I really broke that information down to make it as easy as possible. And then I provided, not necessarily the FOUO info that's on the Foreign Clearance Guide website that service members have to use in order to travel abroad. But I gave them suggestions on pretty much what is the 1, 2, 3, 4 step on executing it. And then also on top of that, their local command information. So it really gives you as much information you need to be able to begin having the thoughts and the inspiration. And one of the things that I'm really working on right now is creating an ebook that is literally a travel one-on-one guide. Like, first step, what are your interests? What do you know are your interests? Not because people tell you they're your interests or because you're a family influence, or what do you know shit interested in doing in life? Do you love bicycling? Do you love museums? Do you love partying? Do you love being alone, a solo traveler? Do you love being with others? What are your interests? And then breaking that down into, okay, now you have your interests. Let's find destinations that are catered to those interests. Once you have those destinations, what's a practical place to go? If you're on a budget, Iceland's mad expensive. New Zealand's expensive. Australia's expensive. But if you want to go to some cheaper, more budget-friendly countries, Thailand is a great option. You look at Vietnam, even Colombia. So I'm breaking down the steps because people don't even know the basics of how to figure out what they want to do, their timelines, the cost, the weather, all these different things. So I'm really excited to produce that ebook and bring it out on the website. And there's also events that I post on there. We've had a couple throughout this year, 7, and it's been really a good fun time to bring service members together and try different things. And then also the Instagram feed is on there. There's just a lot of stuff that allowed people to get educated on the things and the opportunities out there in life.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is that I think a lot of service members, especially while they're in, it's not until you get out that you can look back and be like, man, I should have done this. I should have done that. I wish I would have known about Slovenia, Slovakia, that there's a place called Lake Bled in Slovenia where you can go skiing, and there's a castle in the middle of this lake and you have to row out to it. I mean, why would you go to Slovenia? I mean, nobody told me about Slovenia before I left the United States to go there, but I would have missed out on these amazing things had somebody didn't say to me, "Hey, you need to go there, check that out." Villach, Austria. I know you live in Italy, and Italy's great, but Austria is amazing, and you want to get there because it's probably one of the most beautiful places on this planet. Again, that education component of it's so important. And that's why I think I really like the website, is because you can see that. And also the Instagram and all of that, you can submit to you travel stories, correct?
Yeah, I use the Instagram as a platform to share the travel stories of those who served or are serving, and it gives people this instantaneous look at what is going on with other people in the world, while they're serving or as veterans, and you get a lot of inspiration from that. So I'm really trying to tailor that as the way that people are seeing the visuals of life and what they can do out there.
Yeah. And then you've even taken a little bit of a step forward with the challenge coin. Now you got that out there. That's really cool, because we always used to do a thing where we would take a picture with a coin or a box or something that we brought with us. And it's kind of cool because now you see in some of these Instagram stories, the coin that you created in these pictures, which is awesome. I mean, that's got to feel pretty good for you as well.
It is, and it's one of those things that's like a timeless tradition. You look at the military, and challenge coins have been around for a long time. And I'm so grateful there was a gentleman who's in the Marine Corps, Heathens Fabrication, who donated and made these coins essentially for me. So it's really great to have that support. And I just went out to Joshua Tree this past weekend and took it with me and took a picture, and it's like this cool little reminder that I get to have on all of my adventures. Like, wow, I need to take life a step further. I got to get out there. And so being able to have this little item, this token, like you said, is just nice to be able to create something that maybe other people will be able to have during their adventures as well.
Yeah. And then you were talking a little bit about the events and stuff like that. And you got an event coming up real close, actually, the 13th, right? 13th and 14th, the Saddles in Service, weekend. Right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this is one of the first anticipated full-blown events with another organization. I've kind of worked with others before, but it was like, but this one they're hosting for us. And I'm really excited because they are focused on providing equestrian therapy for service members, veterans, firefighters, police officers, you name it. And so they have a whole mission centered on connecting them with rescued horses. And I'm just interested to experience that myself because equestrian therapy is like a really big project for a lot of organizations right now.
Yes.
And I don't even fully understand it. So be able to bringing LiboRisks from my community is so amazing. Saddles in Service, they have a ranch in Julian. And so we're going to go out there, do their program. Each person is going to have a rancher to help them out through the course. And then we're going to have lunch catered. We're going to have a sunset hike, a bonfire. I brought games. And then we're just going to spend a full day together, really connecting and having about 14, 15 people from the LiboRisk community out here to do something that's completely free to them. You don't need a lot of money. I don't need to get a bunch of donations or sponsorships to create the opportunity for people to just have human connection and have a good time. And so the next day I'm excited because I just got my yoga teacher credentials in Thailand this past summer. So I've been teaching and hosting these small classes, and I'm going to get to provide them a free vinyasa flow in the morning before we all head out. But it's just a simple weekend to get people together. And my last event for the year, I'm really looking forward to hosting events every single month next year, but this is going to be the last and final one.
Very cool. Now I have to ask what training in Thailand was like. And
oh man,
it was the whole you starting out, what made you want to go do it? The whole thing, I have to ask.
Yeah, no, and God, this was one of those life-changing experiences. I've been practicing yoga my entire life since high school, and I really kept it up while I was in the military because I had consistent chronic back pain and hip pain. Always. Okay. I was in really good physical shape, but I had MRIs done, x-rays done, and it wasn't any particular injury. It's just chronic pain.
Yeah.
And I would have to get injections, do physical therapy, go to a chiropractor. I would have to stretch and do yoga before I went to a yoga class. That's how difficult my physical pain was. And so I thought of becoming a yoga teacher because it was something of a free service that I could provide for these LiboRisk events. Instead of hiring somebody, it's like, why don't I just go become a teacher myself and have that expertise? And so my boyfriend was deployed out there working this past summer, and I wanted to come out and visit. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I stay for a couple months instead of just a week or so? And it was during COVID, it was just a shit show experience. I get out there the first week and everything shuts down. It's pretty much a red zone. And so I was attending a course in Bangkok, and it was pretty pricey comparatively to other retreats that were out there, yoga retreats and courses, but we were there for a week and then they switched online, and I was not excited about it. Like everything was already shut down. I was going through a mental crisis myself because I went from weightlifting and training for 8 years and not being able to do anything physically active because everything's shut down. I realized I had a freaking problem with weight training and weightlifting. So I wanted to be able to still get my credentials, and I found that there was an island near Phuket called Koh Phi Phi, where they have like the crazy full moon party every year and stuff. And they were doing a course pretty much starting that next week. So I got a refund. I left, hopped on a flight, and I went to Koh Phi Phi to the Wonderland Healing Center. And it was such a stark difference in the perspective and mindsets that the way they were going about teaching the philosophy of yoga. And this is something that was so amazing to me because yoga is not just this physical practice, it's the art and science of healthy living, and very, very similar to Stoicism as far as philosophy goes. And you just put it into physical practice. So I went there, it was all you can eat, freaking lunch, dinner, and have lodging as well. And we learned and submersed ourselves in this month-long experience of yoga. And it's the craziest thing to talk about. But after that course, my hip and back pain went away.
Wow.
Like it's gone. Right? It's crazy to think about. I'm like 8 years of this that I was dealing with. And so for me to be able to interpret this, and it sounds a little woo-woo, but it's like I've been physically practicing yoga, but for the first time I was now emotionally and spiritually practicing yoga.
Right.
And we learned that in the course about how there's the physiology behind trauma and pain. And, you look at service members and veterans, and we have a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, and being able to actually practice yoga for the first time emotionally, to me, that is what I feel like healed me in ways. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who really need yoga. And one of the craziest things that I learned about was, like, I know this is getting into a lot of the science of it, but
please.
Fascia, this thing called fascia.
Okay.
Fascia is like a very thin connective tissue that's wrapped all around our body. And when you are not stretching out or having the viscosity of that fascia to be elastic, and you are inactive or even just stressed, it can cause pain. It's 10 times more sensitive than muscle. And so you look at chronic pain in the military, there's like 45% of people in the military who suffer from chronic pain. And, you have these people who go to medical and they say, oh, I have back issues. Well, they do CT scans and x-rays and MRIs, and there's nothing wrong. And they're forced to report to duty, or, they're considered malingerers.
Yes.
And it's like, you completely invalidate human beings by saying, you're not in pain, you're bullshitting it.
Yep.
It's like, wait a minute, no, I am. But nobody talks about this. And so you have people who are prescribed all these pills or told that they're liars. And God, what is that doing to the military right now? Just to think about all the people who felt the same as I did and didn't know that yoga could be that medicinal outlet for them is just wild. So.
And it's so important that you kind of shine that light on what, like, my wife and I talk about all the time is your more invisible illnesses. Because if I look at you, you don't look like a person that's dealing with pain. I just, and I'm being completely just judgmental. I'm looking at you, look like a healthy person that's in good shape. So you have to be fine, right? You can't be dealing with fibromyalgia or arthritis or back pain, hip pain, knee pain. And when somebody just immediately invalidates your feelings because your MRI came back good, that's when it starts taking a mental toll on you. My wife went years trying to get diagnosed. She ended up getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. She had started with dry eyes and arthritis, and everybody kept telling her she was fine. She's fine. She's fine. She's fine. And it got to the point where she was like breaking down because she's like, I'm in tremendous pain and no one will listen to me. You're not fine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think it's so important to shine the light on these kind of more invisible illnesses that, yeah, you might look like a perfectly healthy individual, but you don't know what that person's going through inside, you know, mentally or physically.
It's a spiritual journey too, you know, when you allow yourself to succumb to practices like yoga that really help you heal. Again, like the military in a lot of ways invalidates the human experiences that we go through, being parents, giving birth, being a mother, you know, or just like having, you know, family members who are drug addicts. Like we're humans.
Yeah.
We're freaking humans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the military has a very bad culture of telling you not to go get help as well. I mean, let's be honest about it. You know, how many times do you hurt yourself and you don't go to sick call because you don't want to get a reputation as the troop that's got problems and this, that, and the other thing. So, you know, and then you go to the VA when you get out and they're like, well, show us where you went, you know, to the doctor while you were in. So it's service connected. And it's like, well, I didn't go because I didn't want to get labeled as somebody. So now I have no service connection or I can't prove it. You know, so the whole like kind of structure is really very flawed in that regard. But it's great to see that, you know, you're adding this yoga concept into your whole community, because I do think that so many people can get a benefit out of it. I really do believe that it's an important tool for a veteran to have with the stuff that we go through.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I hope to do with LiboRisk, is be able to be like somewhat of an umbrella corporation that allows to kind of pickpocket from all these nonprofits or for-profits that already have their niche in whatever they're doing, whether it's equestrian therapy, yoga, surfing, hiking, cabin retreats. I don't know. There's a lot of people that are already doing things that are focused on travel and the outdoors, but there's not necessarily an umbrella, you know, entity that gives the opportunities to bring everybody together and kind of have these micro moments with them. So yoga is definitely one of those opportunities that allows people to expand upon the things that they can do in life and potentially save them in a lot of ways. So
for sure. And then you talk about, you know, the future and what you're kind of looking to do with this umbrella idea. What else are you really looking to do with this kind of community? Can't you get in touch with the military and talk about getting guys out of the dorms, girls out of the dorms and stuff like that, and do programs inside the military as well as for veterans? You know, anything like that. I mean, what else do you have on the horizon? It seems like you're really kind of gearing this thing up. So
yeah, I'm so anticipating 2022.
Very cool.
I recently just had an interview with Bunker Labs, which is kind of like a veteran startup incubator.
Okay.
Where they have a 6-month program where they give you WeWork space, a WeWork membership to, you know, connect with sponsors, investors, work together, collaborate. It's an amazing opportunity. And so I just did the interview for that. And I'm really hoping to have that as my, you know, opportunity to launch LiboRisk in the right, credible and legitimate direction. And so for this past year, I've really focused on building the community, and monetization has always been like an afterthought.
Right.
I've considered it, but to me, if I do this the rest of my life and just have a good time, it's the best job in the world. And so I've focused on building this community, and I'm getting to this transition point where I want to create a legitimate LLC, have it as a nonprofit or for profit. And so those are the financial things that I'm focusing on coming into 2022, but also I would love to be able to finally create the travel agency booking platform. And so there's no booking platform that is specifically for service members and veterans. You look at like Sato, but they can book vacations, but nobody considers Sato something of a vacation platform. And so I want to create one and be able to be a travel agent who literally asks the questions like, okay, what is your job? What is your rate? I know how much you get paid. Are you trying to go to a country that has a curfew? Like Japan has curfews. A lot of countries in Southeast Asia and other places have curfews. So I look at the opportunity to be that travel agent, that travel booking platform that has those all considerations and knows that there's certain prices and certain budgets and certain timelines that is going to have to be worked around. So within 2022, being able to create the actual legitimate LLC, the nonprofit or for-profit, and then being able to get that booking platform launched is a number one priority of mine. And then eventually being able to work with other military installations. So I built out a school bus into a tiny home so that way I can travel from installation to installation and be able to promote LiboRisk and host these events and build an ambassador program where other people are advocating for what LiboRisk stands for and what it's about. Within that, I also have an idea about creating an app. That was like my initial thought, but then I quickly realized that apps are mad expensive.
200 grand, give or take,
yeah,
depending on
so
what you want to add to it.
Yeah, I have the prototype finished, but we actually have one launching. I think that's one of the last priorities that I have before I go international, and creating offices and the outlets and resources outside of the United States and other countries. This can be global at some point. So
for sure,
I'm taking the baby steps, but it's definitely a priority of mine to just keep fostering the community, getting the legitimate enterprise working and running, and then being able to get merchandise and all of these things that will really help start making the community a little bit more grounded, and have people have more resources, especially with the booking platform. I think that's going to be huge to just being able to help people get out and experience as much as they can.
Yeah. The booking platform is an amazing idea. I wish we would have had something like that back in the day, because, just as something as simple as blending in Space A travel, say,
yeah.
I'm going to take Space A going, but I don't want to risk coming back because I'm on leave and maybe I don't want to get bumped from a flight and then not get back. So I want to Space A out somewhere, but then I want to book the trip coming back. Can you help me with that? Like if you went to Priceline and asked them that question, they probably would hang up on you, thinking you were talking a foreign language. But with your experience and obviously with connections in the military and stuff, now that's something that you can kind of build and put together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about the idea of just having even 5 to 8 service members who are stationed in Japan taking a week of leave to go to Cambodia. I can do an all-inclusive tour, set them up in a budget-friendly hostel, and get everything taken care of. I know where they should go, where they shouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
I can give them a liberty brief explaining everything and help cater to those moments and those budgets and those people where each of them is uniquely different. But at the end of the day, I can say E1s to E5s have a certain interest and have a certain budget. Mm-hmm. And then, you look at your family man or family woman who's an E7 and up, who wants to be with, quieter, maybe a resort or whatever it is. There's starkly different things that I can cater to that doesn't exist yet. Mm-hmm. So this is the LiboRisk opportunity that would allow to them to come to a website and say, hey, I want to book that. And it's super easy and it gives you all the information. And it's not as complicated as it is right now.
Yeah. And like you said, that'll get more and more people out, because if you take away the amount of clicks that somebody has to do to book something, if you get that down to just 2 clicks, hey, boom, boom, and I know I'm good and I'm going to get everything I need, I'm going to book that. And it's going to happen fast, and I'm going to want to get out and go do more things. And if they have a great experience with it, they're going to book their next trip. So that's very cool. I like that idea. I like it a lot. And then now I have to ask you about building the bus. Because that's something that my wife and I have always talked about doing. We have a travel trailer, so we use that right now. But the bus thing is becoming big. Converting the bus, you see a lot of Instagram pages with people converting buses. There's a couple veterans that actually have pages that are doing it. What was your experience like converting that bus?
It was an interesting one. And I think I bought mine at the perfect time, because you're right. People were becoming so interested in just picking up and uprooting from their normal lives. And
mm-hmm.
2020 COVID really made people think about, all right, do I need to be here? Can I afford to live in this huge house and have all of these things? And so I was getting out of the military, and I don't have much of a family or a place to go back home to. You see a lot of people go back home and, they get to kind of chill out, maybe go to college and relax. And so I don't have that foundation. or that family, and knew that if I wasn't going to have the Marine Corps family anymore, I needed to make my own. I needed to make my own home. So I found a school bus on Facebook Marketplace, and it was, kind of converted, not in the best shape, but it was a good price, and I bought her. And at the time, I co-owned a lumber company with another veteran who had pretty much everything that I needed to build this bus out. And from October 2020, October 2020 to about May 2021, I completely gutted it out and just rebuilt everything from the top to the bottom and created the space that I needed to be like, hey, this is my new home.
Cool.
And I don't know how much I've spent on it yet. I saved all the receipts, but it's not super expensive. Like, people consider, you can make it as simple as you want.
Right.
But one of the things that I really loved about it was it made me filter out all of my crap. I was like, what do I need? What do I not need?
Mm-hmm.
And the byproduct of that too is you start to recognize the people in your life. How do you filter out the people in your life? How do you filter out your time? How do you filter out your resources? Because it's not as easy as people think. You have to constantly be finding a bathroom if you don't have one, or a shower, being able to get repairs when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of complexities to this lifestyle, but I would have done it. I wish I did it while I was in the military, to be honest.
It would be very cool. It would have been cool to have done something like that while in the military, collect that BAH, just pocket it.
That's my point. You save so much freaking money. I think my expenses every month are like $800, and that's me living comfortably.
Yeah. Now, do you have propane hookup in that, or are you're just straight electric?
Yeah. So I have a propane for my cooking stove right now, but I plan to get a Jackery system and solar system up. I don't use a whole lot of energy, so it would be my vehicle refrigerator, which they have some pretty cool ones out there that are like a low wattage and everything, 12 volt preferably, and just hook that up to the solar and have that to charge my laptop and my fridge, and I'm good.
You're California, correct?
I am. I'm in San Diego, which is like prime pickings for this type of this, because the weather is just so good out here.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to worry about snow and stuff. I didn't insulate it. I'm always going to be in temperate or decent weather. I would prefer to be. So
yeah, like if we did it out here in New York, it would be kind of a different situation. I just went camping a little upstate New York on the Hudson for Halloween, and it wasn't very cold. It was nice, but it got down to like 38 at night a couple times, and having the propane heater in the camper was nice, especially with a 3.5-year-old. She would have kind of got mad at me and probably kicked my shins, but it was nice to have the propane heater. So like, when you start looking at, depending on the area you're in, your money needs to go into the things that you need to do that build, depending on what kind of climate you're going to have to face. But solar works awesome because, let's be honest, California, you got sun 70% of the day.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, you can make it as custom as you want, and it's always a project. And I really hope people kind of be interested after listening to this podcast, because you don't have to be an expert in anything. There's YouTube University is a real thing. And I got everything from my videos and just working with my business partner at the time, who kind of taught me the tips and tricks on working with wood, or how to use a tool or something myself. So it's been a cool project of mine to have, and I'm always working on it, always upgrading, always cleaning, always painting, repainting. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I realized was probably the best decision that I could have ever done.
That's very cool.
Especially after the military. It's a cleansing experience.
And it also works into everything that you're trying to do as well. I mean, let's be honest, it kind of fits the business model.
It does. And it's so funny. I cheaply spray painted LiboRisk on the side of the bus. And I'll get people who message the page, be like, dude, I just saw your bus. You're right next to Pendleton. It's so cool.
Very cool.
So until I upgrade to a better paint job, the spray paint does the job.
Hey, it works. It works. And then the other question that I really wanted to ask you was, you talked about Thailand, you talked about Colombia, all right? Besides those two, because those are amazing, let's be honest. Thailand was probably one of your tops, and Colombia is just beautiful. Where was someplace else that you traveled to, either backpacking or just stayed in hotels or hostels or whatever, that you would recommend to military or veterans out there, that you think that that's an experience that they should have?
I would say abroad, definitely Portugal.
Portugal.
Portugal
Okay.
was one of those places that's kind of underrated.
Hmm.
And I went there because there's certain countries while in the military that you don't have to do the whole foreign clearance guide prerequisites. You can literally just apply for leave locally at your command and get it approved and you can go.
Yeah.
So Italy and Portugal are two of those locations.
Yes.
And I went to Italy first and then I flew over to Portugal and my grandmother just always raved about how amazing Portugal was. And I never really understood why until I got there. And wow, what amazing freaking people.
Yeah.
And the food is great. The culture is amazing. I didn't realize I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but a lot of what J.K. Rowling was inspired by from Harry Potter and her books was from the Portuguese culture.
I didn't know
And
that.
they have students who walk around in these big black cloaks, the same that they do in the Harry Potter movies and stuff. They do that in Portugal, and
Very cool.
just the overall culture and stuff. People were there were absolutely amazing. I remember one time I had just gotten to Lisbon, and I'm walking around, kind of hopping from bar to bar, getting a feeling, tasting and eating and drinking, and I was at my last my last bar, and I'm about to order a drink, and the bartender says, "No, it's okay, we got you." I was like, okay. And so he comes over with this cocktail. It was absolutely amazing. And I finished the cocktail, and I was like, what was this for? He was like, "Oh, the group over there bought it for you." It's like, what? Okay. And so the group is heading out from the door next to me, and they stop and they say, "Hey, we bought you that drink. We saw you at the last bar by yourself, so we thought we'd get you something." Because I was just by myself.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I wanted to go out with them to get dinner. So the rest of the night, I'm with this amazing Portuguese group. They're having me try the local food, local drinks. They're just treating me out. I'm like, wow, what an experience for these locals to be so absolutely nice to me as an American. And I had never had that before, where people just brought me in and saw me by myself and wanted to take me out and treat me well and show them their country,
Right.
or show me their country. So I would highly recommend Portugal, and it's still fairly cheap comparatively to other places in Europe.
Hmm.
So that, and then I would have to say Yosemite in the US, California. Yosemite is definitely one of those. I feel like it's like the hidden jewel of America. Not necessarily hidden, but it is the primary jewel of the United States. Absolutely loved it.
And we take it for granted that because it's right. When I say it's right here, it's inside the United States. A lot of people don't make that trip. I know my father's 70 something years old, and he still hasn't gone. It's still on his bucket list. He will do it. I know he will, but he's always wanted to go. And it's like, you don't do it when you have the chance, like, because it's here. So it's a missed opportunity.
It is. Well, like, again, there's so many installations on the West Coast over here. And I've met so many service members, even veterans who still haven't gone out and just taken a weekend to go explore Yosemite. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm hoping the travel trailer will end up there very soon. It'll be very, very
You'll have
cool.
to let me know. I will help you definitely figure out a whole plan.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And even the trip that I had there was crazy to think about. There's this guy, Isaac Ibarra, who was in the Marine Corps. He was a photojournalist as well. We never met. He was in Okinawa, but I was on mainland Japan. And we kind of followed each other, and, the community is super small. And he happened to be in Florida at the time that I was in California working at the recruiting station. And he posted on his Instagram, like, "Anybody down to go to Yosemite?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I'm down the street. Let's go." We had never met before too, mind you. But he hopped on a plane, arrived to LAX. I picked him up in my car, and we literally went out for 4 days of camping out in Yosemite. And he created this amazing video montage of our experience. And again, it was like this other Marine that I had never met. And we just, pitched a tent and had a good time and drank some rum and hiked everywhere. It was so cool.
It's those, I'm telling you, it's those times that you just turn to a buddy. I'll never forget a experience I had with one of my best friends. We still, we're still best friends now. And we were stationed in Italy together. We went down to Venice, and no hotel, no nothing. We were going to miss the last train. I looked over at him. I said, "You feeling limber?" And he's like, "What do you want to get into?" And I was like, "No hotel, no nothing. We're just going to stay here. Whatever happens, happens. All the bars are going to shut down. We're just going to walk down the street." And the things that we ran into that night, I mean, the stories are just just never forget them. Except at the end, I'll forget some of that because I can't remember it. But it was just amazing. And like I said, it all started with me just looking at him, going, "You game? You into it? Yep, let's do it. All right, cool."
Ascendant type of person.
Yeah.
Ascendant type of person.
And that's what I think you're building. You're building a bunch of people that just want to go out and have a great time. And that community of being able to reach out to somebody through the internet and say, "Hey, meet me here. Let's go do this."
Yeah. And well, that's what LiboRisk, I don't know if you've ever heard the term Liberty Risk in the Air Force, but it, in the Marine Corps, I'm pretty positive it was founded in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
But to call somebody a Liberty Risk or a LiboRisk was kind of like had a negative connotation. You were usually the person who had a particular knack for getting into stupid situations or having to be recalled from Liberty or, just getting in trouble. And I'm a LiboRisk, like I am a Liberty Risk. I've had my fair share of encounters that I was like, oh crap, that was not a good idea. Or maybe that was the best idea ever. I don't know. But it depends on who's looking at it, from the command perspective or my perspective. But I love the idea of just being the one who says, send it, go out there and do, whatever it may be that you want to do to have a good time. But be responsible. And so that's kind of one of the pillars that I created with LiboRisk is being receptive, respectful, and then of course risky. Because you look at these things that happen in life where it's like, all right, that was a really dumb decision. That's a dangerous decision. And there's inherent risk to life in anything that you do. But I think that, it's so funny that we go out and we join the United States military, which to a lot of people is very dangerous. But then we say, oh, no. You have to mitigate risk as much as possible in every facet of your life. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. I just joined the military, bro. Like risk. I want that. Right. I want to take as much risk. I just
volunteered for risk. That's exactly what I just did.
Yeah. And so we discourage it. And it's like, nah, I'm totally against that. I feel like we should be big, living a proponent of risk in every single day of our life and planning and executing and doing the things that we can to be safe and respectful in the places that we go visit. But ultimately, I'm an advocate of risk taking. Risk should be a number one rule of going out and experiencing life.
Yeah. Risk doesn't have to mean a bad thing. It can mean a good thing because some of your best times that you're ever going to have is when you were doing things that maybe you shouldn't have been doing or were risky, as you say so often on the website. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Speaking about website, everything, how can people find you? How can people get more information? Also, if you wouldn't mind, if somebody does have some photos from a recent trip and they want to submit to you, how do they do that? All of that kind of stuff.
For sure. LiboTech Risk is the website right now where they can find all of those resources and stuff that we were mentioning earlier. And then the LiboRisk, I also have a Facebook group, LiboRisk as well. The Instagram, they can just shoot a message on there, go ahead and provide any photos. I have some questions that I usually ask to supplement for the caption to get more of the personal experience and put that into the post. And then the Facebook group is really awesome because that's a way for people all across the world to be able to connect, share their stories, host, become a host for their house if they want to bring any other service members or veterans and come over and just hang out. And again, it's another platform for people to connect on. I also post all of the events and the things that we have going on, merchandise on those platforms as well. And those are going to be really great resources, again, for people to get inspired and be educated about the opportunities to travel.
Very cool. Very cool. And I want everybody out there to take advantage of this. Please, if you're a veteran who's traveling, go there, check out some of the information. There's links to, how to book things, everything from a hostel to resorts. So you have information there. If you're a military member, get out of the dorm. Stop it. Okay. Call of Duty will be there when you get back. It'll be fine. Step out of your comfort zone for a little while. Get out there, grab a bunch of people, go to restaurants, go to bars, dance a little bit, have some fun, and go see the sights. These are, thousands and thousands of years of history that we're in front of. Take it all in. So, I can't ask people to do that enough. It's so important that we don't look back and say, man, I wish I would have done that. So, Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast talking to you. I've thought of some stories that I haven't thought of in a while. And it's always fun to talk to somebody else that loves to travel and loves to get out there and just have a blast. So please, everybody, go check out LiboRisk, check out the Instagram, Facebook, and the website, and be on the lookout, because when that booking comes out, you're going to want to book your travel through that site. So we will definitely promote that when that comes out.
Thank you so much again for having me. Again, it's always nice to have people who understand like what this mission is about, and cultivating the excitement to help service members and veterans experience more beyond the compounds of a base, or even the fabric of the uniform, and expanding on that identity and the opportunities that they have on life. So thank you again for supporting what I do in the LiboRisk mission.
Hell yeah. No, it's a blast to watch you do this. And like I said, nothing but success in the future for you.
Thank you.
Be awesome. Well, thank you very much. And you have a great day.
You as well. Ciao.
Ciao.